Welcome, brother. Introduce yourself. Who are you? What you do?
My name's Jai. I'm a youth mentor down in the Illawarra, and I work for Top Blokes.
Fantastic. How long have you been working with Top Blokes, man?
I've been working for Top Blokes around nearly 3 years now.
Yeah. How's that experience been?
Definitely a good thing. I was a barista for ages before, and it's definitely something a little bit more fulfilling now. Serves a little bit more purpose.
What attracted you to start working with Top Blokes?
I think like the main thing that kind of resonated with me was just like helping the younger men. Yeah, I feel like that was probably like the main point for me.
So like with that, like did it kind of hit like a bit of a soft spot or something like that?
Yeah.
For yourself, like was it something that you feel like you kind of needed when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Younger?
Yeah. Like I definitely wish like we had programs like that down my way. I was brought up on a pretty south coast, small little town.
Yeah.
And yeah, we definitely didn't have anything like that at all.
Of course, going through the program is, you go through certain topics and stuff like that, but what's something that you're kind of drawing to? What kind of feels like something that you kind of lean on a lot more, or kind of get more invested in with?
In sense of the program, it's actually like making that connection with the boys to enable the proper conversations around the topics that we run. Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of people can talk around it and deliver programs, but not many people can make like a genuine connection.
Yeah.
And without that, it doesn't really enable for that space to be held in the sense. So probably that's the thing that draws me the most, is actually creating that rapport so the boys can open up and be that bit vulnerable.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's so beneficial to kind of start opening up those important conversations?
Yeah, it definitely is. And going back into like our programs, like creating that rapport from week one to kind of enable that in the future is definitely like a good, I guess if it was like stepping stone into allowing those conversations to be had.
I mean, we're here today to talk a little bit about mental health. Focusing on your physical health definitely has massive benefits to mental health, right? Do you guys start implementing that into the programs as well too? How are you guys combating mental health within these programs?
Yeah, so we attack it in a few different senses, but the main one that I can kind of relate that to is our Big Six.
Yeah.
So our Big Six is essentially 6 things that also improve your physical health, not the same as like your mental health. So a couple of things are like exercise, obviously what we just talked about, you feel good doing it, both in the mental and physical sense. Sleep is a huge factor. Then you got like your diet, your routine, hygiene, and then your water as well. So those things are like the bare minimum. Can impact your physical health in a positive sense, but also can then translate over into the mental sense.
I just want to provide some evidence to that. In the past maybe 6 weeks, I used to train quite a bit about a year ago, and I stopped to really focus on my business. I'm 30 now, so of course this is great for young adults to know. The quicker you learn, or the earlier you learn this, the more beneficial it's going to be, right? I didn't learn it till a later time in my adulthood. Maybe past 6 weeks, been focusing on my sleep more, been focusing on drinking enough water, eating enough food, weight training as well. That's just my preferred sport that I like. I put some size on, so it's done really well for my confidence. But in terms of my emotion, because like maybe 3 months ago, because I was just doing a lot of work and business, so stressed out, emotionally just drained, depression, anxious all the time. I'm so calm, even in a situation like this. Say for instance, if we were to do this 6 months ago, I'd be able to put a brave face on, but inside I'd be so
yeah, exactly.
Well, right now I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I feel good right now.
It's just chilling.
It's great.
No, it's awesome, man. And like at the bare minimum, like there's so many other things like mindfulness, breath work, socials, like whatever your mode and method is of feeling better, definitely do it. But at the bare minimum, those 6 things are definitely something to just fall back on and just to keep in line.
So what are some other things that talking about mental health, like how do you guys open up the discussion with in the program and with these young adults?
Even putting myself in the shoes when I was younger, talking around mental health was something that I wouldn't be comfortable with from being a young bloke. But the way that we kind of approach it is we're just there for the openness. We're just there to talk around. We'll acknowledge that it would be a bit heavier of a topic. However, throughout the weeks of creating that rapport, getting to know the boys a little bit more, we can safely guide the conversations and we'll understand or maybe go down the whole of like suicide, and we'll talk around depression, we'll talk around anxiety, and they're not comfortable topics to talk about as a whole. But I think our approach to it is a very easy, streamlined approach into creating the safest conversations that we can.
What do you feel like the most common kind of approach is for young adults with mental health? Like, is it still that kind of stigma around it where you can't talk about your feelings?
Yeah.
It's not manly enough to cry or talk about what you're going through. Is that still prevalent?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely prevalent. Each area has their different, I guess, if you would, versions of that.
Yeah.
But personally, like just off what you said, like a big one for me down home was like, you're not a man. Like if you're crying, like that's only pretty much like a woman's thing or associated to the feminine aspect. But yeah, there's still a bit of that stigma of boys being men, told to like harden up and get through it and that. But even then, like it's shown in different places with the use of like, let's just say like drugs or like alcohol or other different aspects like that.
Fighting those escapes to kind of just mask those emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to see, but that's again like why we're there to try and maybe direct that into a little bit more of a positive way.
Yeah. Do you find these kids are like receptive to, once you guys have broken that ice and you guys have opened it up, like do you find that it's kind of like a bit of a weight off their shoulders and a bit of a relief? Like It is. I feel like that would be a common thing, right?
It is, because it's something that they feel comfortable talking about then, and it's something that's been on their mind or previously has been on their minds. So they definitely do feel a little bit more inclined to ask some questions, and it's definitely more of a comforting thing in the end.
Struggling with mental health and stuff like that, it definitely can get to such a dark side. Like, I feel like most of us have kind of gone through those periods of time where it feels pretty heavy, and, the kind of, the worst of it can be that suicide, it's a tough song.
The S-bomb.
You know what I mean? The S-bomb, like, and it is even now, like, us grown men, like, sometimes it is a bit kind of like a resistance to push through it. But how do you guys approach, like, the topic of suicide with these young adults?
We've already previously talked around depression, anxiety, and break that down to the point where we acknowledge that everyone has the right to feel anxious and to feel depressed. There's just a little turning point when someone is diagnosed with it. So we break down those kind of stigmas, and then what we do to kind of talk around suicide is we display like a graph of statistics. So these are proven, these are researched. And we go over the rates of diagnosed depression, diagnosed anxiety in both males and females. And then the last column that we kind of hide is we draw a little S on the board. And we acknowledge that because men aren't really going to go and seek help, what could the ultimate result be of not going to seek help when you really need it? And we draw up the S, and then you clearly see the mood in the room kind of drop, just that little bit.
But without even saying it?
Without even saying it. The boys kind of know what it is already.
Yeah.
And then we say, who can have a guess at what this word may mean? And the boys say suicide. And then it's from there that I think is like the real turning point where a lot of heads get switched on. And it's just hard to explain because it is such like a ball drop moment as soon as you disclose that word.
Yeah, definitely. And especially within the room, like, some of them probably are either have gone through it, going through it, or, really thought about that being the possibility of that.
It's also like, it's the thing as well, like expressing how you feel in a group of others, boys in your year, talking about such a heavy topic, and everyone's just on the same boat.
So then, like, of course, we always hear these phrases like, checking in your mates, are you okay day, kind of like, are you okay, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How are you guys encouraging, or if you are encouraging, which I'm sure you guys are, like, that conversation within people's, like, their peers to, check up on their mates?
Yeah, because we understand it's like such a roller coaster of a workshop in terms of emotions for our young men. And so at the end, like, we obviously encourage more of the positives, and that's the check-in. So we go by ALEC, which is an abbreviation for ask, listen, encourage action, and check-in. And that applies for literally anyone and everyone. Whether just be that simple, how you go into your mates, or whether be someone else that you may not even know and asking how they are. Something as simple as just like checking up, seeing how they're going could potentially like be the turning point for them.
The question is, man, and it's, one of those questions that can be even like, it's still around that topic of suicide. If it does get to a certain point where, you have been checking in with your friend that, is going through something and has suicidal thoughts and like all those kind of things, and they don't want to help themselves even further. What do you do then?
So for us in the position that we're in, we can put in as much structure as we possibly can. So if a participant came up to us and disclosed that they are having suicidal thoughts or may feel that they're very depressed or whatever else is going on, that's on our behalf to maybe even follow that back up with the school to make sure that they're alert, go to our point of contacts, and if we can put in place some certain other structures, maybe like even to reach out to, or on the school's behalf, to reach out to maybe some other external services.
It's fine to have these kind of like emotions, hey?
Yep.
Like, you know, mental health is, of course, you know, it's not just one thing, it's, you know, it can be multiple things.
It's exactly it, man. Like, there's an accumulation of so many, like, stresses, if you would. Like, life stressful as it is. But then when you tie in for the perspective of the boys, like school, exams, like new relationships, like there's so many new things going on. And it's exactly like what you said, it's perfectly fine to feel sad, it's perfectly fine to feel anxious and to feel depressed. But then if it starts impacting your day-to-day life and you can't operate at what your normal is, that may be a little bit of a sign to maybe go and seek that help, or even just talk to someone about how you're actually feeling.
Look, you guys are providing this program. Outside of the program, what can these kids do to kind of like continue the work that they need to do to, you know, address these problems, or not even say problems, sorry, like, you know, just to kind of, like, you know, when you go to the gym, you have a PT, someone to help you.
We can encourage them to go to like Kids Helpline, we can get them to go to a therapist or encourage that, which I feel is going to be the biggest thing for them because it's absolutely free, it's like somewhat anonymous, they're there for majority of the time. And it's even just as simple as if you've had a bad day at school. These services and other people are there to talk around that. It doesn't necessarily need to be around feeling depressed, around feeling anxious. It could just be a bad day and that's completely fine.
Before we wrap up, anything you want to finish up with, man?
No, thanks for having me, brother. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. It's tidy.